Okay guys, let's get started with the PHP framework. In order to create a controller, now this is the thing that will help to bridge the connection between Zenno and your web application. You need to set up some sort of a PHP framework. That's my recommendation. And I like the CodeIgniter framework more than anything. So head on down to lslab.com/CodeIgniter and click the big green button and download your PHP framework. I'm going to click Save File, and it's going to download now. And then what you need to do is to extract the contents of the zip file. And what you'll get then is a folder. So here's the CodeIgniter application folder. I'll just order that so it comes up at the top. And you can just quickly see that the CodeIgniter framework is basically these folders here and these two files that you need to upload to your web server. So let's go ahead and install these to our PHP web hosting account. I've got FileZilla and I'm going to use FileZilla. So let's connect to the FTP account for this server. And I'm going to navigate into the public HTML folder. Now as you can see, I've got a WordPress installation here. So I'm going to create a subfolder which is going to host the CodeIgniter application. So from within this, I'm going to click Create Directory. And we're going to call it Zenno Server. So now you have a new Zenno Server directory in your account. I'm going to lowercase those actually. I prefer lowercase on a Linux system. And then into that, we finally drop the application files which are here. I'm going to upload that there now to that location. This takes a couple of minutes to complete depending on the internet connection because the CodeIgniter framework contains quite a few hundred files. So I'm going to pause this for a moment and I will resume as soon as the FTP transfer is done. Okay, so the FTP transfer is completed and I'm just going to tidy up because I noticed there's a spurious folder made its way into my deployment, so I'm going to remove that. Now we have a very clean CodeIgniter installation at the Zenno server folder. Let's go into that structure now. So first of all, you need to configure your CodeIgniter installation. The important thing for CodeIgniter and Zenno is to have a MySQL database ready so that you can use the database for storing and persisting information between Zenno and your web application. So let's switch to the MySQL panel. Now I use my favorite hosting environment, which is Ignite Systems, and on the C panel you'll see here this MySQL databases link, and from there you can see that there's two databases set up now. I did that in advance. What you need to do is create a new database by putting a username and a password in there and clicking on the create button. And then you'll get a database here in this table where you can click on the manage button next to it. So let's click manage and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's our Web16 Zenno database. There's quite a few tables here, and to be honest with you, it looks very complicated at this stage, but what I'm going to focus on with you is the first step, which is profiles. So I'm going to click on the profiles table, and you can see quite a number of user profiles that are stored in here. So ultimately, the database has records. Now, when you get this will be empty, but you'll have the structure, and the structure of this database contains a number of fields. These are all the fields that you need to run a successful Zenno poster registration and to persist the profile object in the MySQL database. Okay, so let's jump back to the CodeIgniter. I want to point out that there's a config folder inside the application folder. And within the config folder, there is a config file, config.php. You need to open that config file. You need to open the database.php file. Scroll down to the bottom of the database, enter the username and password of your site. On an Ignite Systems customer account, the username and the server and the password are listed conveniently here, as you can see. I've changed this password since this demo, so don't even bother trying to connect to my SQL database because you won't be able to. So make sure that these details here are displayed inside the Zenno database config file. And I'll show you what that looks like from within my environment. So I like to use NetBeans IDE to manage PHP files. And I've opened this here database.php file. And scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see hostname, username and password and the database name, which these 4 fields you can fill in when you look at the information on the Ignite Systems hosting account. You can fill those in there. That's the first step to getting up and running with PHP and CodeIgniter for Zenno Server.